In today's video, we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts for approaching arm injuries and pain as a baseball player. So this video is more directed to parents and coaches, but players, you should know that this is what I would recommend if your arm was hurting. So number one, they need to stop. If they're throwing, if they're pitching, and their arm hurts, their elbow, their shoulder, whatever it is, this is a difficult dialogue to have because as a former pro pitcher who had Tommy John surgery 2 times and a shoulder injury ended my career, there is a certain amount of pain that older, experienced players like myself have to live with and play through. This is not the case with young players. If you're an amateur, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, it is not normal for you to be in pain, especially not consistently. It's not normal to say, hey, every time I pitch 5 or 6 innings, my elbow hurts for a couple days later. That's not normal. Something is wrong. And if that's going on, you need to stop. That's the first thing, and get some rest. After you've rested a little bit, then we need to start to address some of the other problems that might be going on. Second thing to do, if a player's having arm pain, is there needs to be a reporting plan to coaches. As a parent, if your kid says, hey, my elbow hurt after pitching today, what happens next? Email your coach. But then what do you expect the coach to do? As a coach, are they going to tell their assistants? Do they need to tell the front office if they have a sort of organizational hierarchy within a travel program, whatever? Where is this information going to go? Lots of times, parents don't communicate with the coach. And so little Johnny, who had elbow pain last game, just shows up to the next game, doesn't tell anyone, or maybe tells coach right before game time, hey, just so you know, my elbow was throbbing after last game. I just want to tell you here, after they're already penciled into the game. So let people know so everyone can be informed and make a group decision about what's best for the player. Number 3, see a doctor who specializes in overhead athletes. That means volleyball, baseball, softball. They deal with a lot of throwers. Medicine is very specialized. So if you go see your family physician, chances are they're going to tell you to take a couple weeks off, maybe ice it, maybe take some ibuprofen. That's typically the advice of a family physician for an elbow injury or a shoulder injury to a young baseball or softball player. That's not bad advice. That is great first line of defense. But if a player has persistent arm pain, they need to see a specialist, someone who deals with baseball and softball players, specifically pitchers, and they can get to the root of it because often it does come from mechanics or shoulder weakness, lack of flexibility, lots of different structural problems, and those need to be addressed. Rest won't fix everything. So make sure when you see a doctor, you see someone who specializes in baseball and softball players. Number 4, don't assume that everything is a mechanical problem. It's not true that if you have perfect mechanics, you'll never be in pain. That's not true. Pitching a baseball especially is just an inherently violent, stressful activity for your arm. It is not good for your arm. So the idea that you can have perfect mechanics and never have arm pain, it is simply not true. Now, having said that, there are many instances where mechanics do contribute to arm pain. But even then, mechanics are not the only part of it. They are a piece of the puzzle. They are not the entire puzzle. So make sure you seek both medical and rehab advice and mechanics advice. Next, if a player is having arm pain and you're not sure what to do about it, do not crowdsource. Find a couple people that you really trust. Maybe it's a mom or dad on the team who you know has a strong baseball or softball background, someone who has a medical background, a PT background, or a coach who's been around a long time, or a couple coaches. Ask for opinions from trusted sources. Do not go in a Facebook group and ask, my kid's having elbow pain, what should I do? You will get 35 different answers, and at least half of them will be very bad advice. Do not crowdsource. Find a couple people that you trust and ask what they would do in your situation. Next, if a player has pain, the overarching thing to understand is that something needs to change, that their body is telling you, this is not okay with me. I need to do something different. That might be their workload. Maybe they're pitching way too much. Maybe they're pitching and catching. Maybe they're playing shortstop 5 days a week and then getting some relief, and that's just too much on their arm. Maybe they finally need to be doing some arm care exercises. They've been playing baseball or softball for 3 or 4 years and they've always been fine, but now they throw kind of hard and they still don't do any arm care and their body's starting to react. That day comes for us all. If your kid is having arm pain, it is a signal that their body is saying something needs to change. Either I need rest, I need a change in my volume, I need a change in my training, or I need a change in my mechanics. Next, understand that if your kid's having arm pain, there may be a significant amount of time off that they have to take. and you're just going to have to shelve your feelings about it. You're going to have to deal with the sunk cost of maybe paying for a baseball season or softball season that they're not going to get to play in, or that they're just going to miss a lot of games and be really sad. You cannot override what's best for your kid because you're disappointed or sad, or they're disappointed or sad that they're going to miss time. You have to take the long view and do what's right for them. Usually what happens is if they have significant pain, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks of rest and then 4 to 6 weeks to rehab. That can eat up an entire high school baseball season. It sucks, but that's the way that these things are. And you have to do what's right for them in the long term. Next, understand that if you ignore arm pain in a young player, if they ignore it and keep pitching through it, if you ignore it and say, oh, it's not a big deal, you'll be fine, just rest it, we'll be back out there 3 days later, I'm sure it'll be gone. If you ignore all these little problems now, they frequently become big problems later. What might have required only a week of rest now to clear up, now is going to require 6 weeks off and 6 weeks of rehab. Trust your kids if they tell you that they have pain, and be cautious. And the last thing to remember, if your kid has arm pain, or if a player on your team has arm pain, not every ache and pain is a sign of a major injury. And yes, I just told you to be cautious, and you absolutely should, but not every ache and pain, because again, throwing, especially pitching, is very stressful and very violent. It's just not very good for your body. Because of that, aches and pains are going to crop up and come and go, and most of them are probably not going to be serious. That does not mean you should overlook them and pitch through them, but it does mean you shouldn't emotionally freak out every time you have some pain. Just be like, hey, all right, your elbow hurts a little bit. It's probably going to go away, but we're going to, sit the next game, or you're only going to play first base. We're going to do a little more arm care, and we're going to be a little more smart about your volume this week. And then hopefully your body's okay. We continue to stay with your arm care, and then things level off and we're fine. A good way of thinking about this, it's a lot like coming back from a stomach virus or from the flu. When you've been really sick and maybe throwing up for a couple of days, what do you do after that? You start to reintroduce foods slowly. You drink a lot of fluids, but maybe you have like some white rice and some bread. And then if you can tolerate that and keep it down, then you start to add more foods. You don't immediately go from throwing up to having, a huge plate of tacos. So it's the same thing when we're talking about these little aches and pains that come and go with throwers. Reintroduce things slowly. Take a step back, relax, give them some time off, do a little more arm care, and then, hey, instead of jumping back into being a starting pitcher again, maybe we're going to say, all right, we'll give you 1 inning or maybe 2 innings, and we'll see how that goes. And even if it goes great, maybe we still don't bump you back up to starting for another couple of weeks. We still kind of incrementally bump you back up slowly. That's a smart way to do this. Again, really think hard, put your emotions aside. If your kid or a player on your team is having arm pain, be cautious about it, think clearly, get some good advice from people in your inner circle that you trust, and make smart decisions, because this is a long-term play. Don't do something that could jeopardize their health because of a short-term stubbornness to stay on the field or get some short-term result, all right? So thanks again for watching. Be sure to check out my online courses, my pitching books, all these different things that I have in the comments and the description below. And I'll see you here in the next video.